I will be talking on hypoglycemia and causes and concerns. So by definition, any abnormally low plasma glucose concentration that exposes the subject to potential harm with a proposed threshold plasma glucose value of less than 70 milligram per dl or less than 3.9 millimoles per liter is defined as hypoglycemia. Now, why this blood glucose value of less than 70 milligram per dl is used? It is because this approximates the lower limit of the normal post-absorptive plasma glucose concentration. It is the threshold at which the counter-regulatory mechanisms come in activation in those without diabetes. It is higher than the threshold of 55 milligram per dl, for which the symptoms of hypoglycemia usually occur in a person without diabetes or one with well-controlled diabetes. So this gives us time to prevent clinical hypoglycemic episodes. It gives a safety margin. So we all know that controlling and keeping our patients in the glycemic target is like walking on a tightrope, where we have to prevent the patient from falling into hyperglycemia on one side and hypoglycemia on the other side. Why does hypoglycemia matter so much? Because it is the most common and serious complication, specifically of insulin therapy. For many patients and their families, hypoglycemia is a very feared and dreaded aspect of diabetes treatment, because once they land up with a hypo, they experience those symptoms, they are very afraid and do not want to experience it again. The fear of hypoglycemia also compromises a good diabetes control, and there is lack of communication by both the healthcare professionals as well as the patients. So a better understanding can increase and improve patient outcomes and quality of life. Burden of hypoglycemia, we know the number of patients of diabetes is increasing exponentially over the years, with 480 million diabetics as of now and projected to be 628 million by the year 2045. Diabetes is among the top 10 causes of deaths globally, and cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death among people with diabetes. So the risk of death from cardiovascular disease is 2 to 4 times more in a person who is having diabetes as compared to the general population. Every 2 out of 3 people with diabetes can have cardiovascular disease as a cause of death. And just like hyperglycemia predisposes, increases the risk, so also hypoglycemia increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, which I will be showing you. Hypoglycemia is a major barrier to improving the glucose control, because as I told, once the patients experience a hypo, they modify the doses of insulin on their own. They tend to reduce the dose or even stop insulin. Even the physicians who are treating them are afraid of, just because of the fear of hypoglycemia, they do not treat the patients aggressively. So hypoglycemia is definitely a very serious and costly affair, isn't it? We can see the number of hospitalizations with hypoglycemia in type 1 and type 2. More commonly, type 1 diabetics are predisposed. However, if type 2 diabetic patient who is on insulin for more than 5 years, the incidence of hypoglycemia is similar and comparable as of type 1 diabetic. So hypoglycemia is classified into severe, symptomatic, asymptomatic, probable symptomatic, and pseudo-hypoglycemia. Severe is when the symptoms are requiring assistance of another person to treat it. It is independent of blood glucose. Symptomatic is when the symptoms of hypoglycemia are present along with a measured plasma low blood glucose value of less than 70 milligram per dl. In this scenario, the patient is able to treat himself. Asymptomatic is when there are no typical symptoms, but a measured low plasma glucose of less than 70 milligram per dl is there. Probably symptomatic is when the typical symptoms of hypoglycemia are there, but they are not accompanied by a measured blood glucose value of less than 70. And pseudo-hypoglycemia is when the typical symptoms of hypoglycemia are present even with a blood sugar above 70 milligram per dl. So the 3 levels of hypoglycemia is level 1, which is the 70 milligrams per dl. This is the alert value for patients as well as the clinician. At this stage, patient may not be symptomatic, but we require to check it and detect this and alter the dose of the insulin and whatever medication they are on. The next level is between 70 to 55 milligram per dl, where this is a clinically significant hypoglycemia, which is usually symptomatic, and repeated episodes can also reduce awareness and predict severe episodes. There is an increased incidence of cardiac arrhythmias and mortality. And finally, we have the level 3, which is the less than 55 milligram per DL, which is a very severe hypoglycemia at which there is severe cognitive impairment requiring external assistance, and there can be coma, seizures, and death if untreated. So who are the people who are at risk of hypoglycemia? They are definitely the older age group, elderly, people who are living alone, do not have assistance, their appetite is reduced, people with multiple comorbidities, including the hepatic and the renal dysfunction, people who are prone for having hypoglycemia unawareness and repeated episodes of hypoglycemia, specifically those who are on insulin and sulfonylurea therapy, also people with dementia, depression, heart failure. So the symptoms of hypoglycemia are autonomic and neuroglycopenic. Just we have seen in the video, shaking, trembling, tremors, anxiety, palpitations, headache. Sometimes the patient can get up with an early morning headache if he has had a hypoglycemia over the night in the sleep. The patient can also give a history of his bed sheets and pillows being wet because of sweating in the night due to an overnight hypoglycemia. Causes of hypoglycemia, I will be discussing the diabetic causes. It is mainly iatrogenic, related to the insulin and sulfonylurea therapy. So if the dosage of insulin or oral hypoglycemic agents are in excess, or they are ill-timed, if the patient has taken the dose and not eaten the meal, or he has skipped the meal, or he has delayed the meal, even in patients who are fasting and they have taken the full dose in the morning, these patients are more prone for getting hypoglycemia. Physical activity can also predispose to hypoglycemia because glucose utilization is increased and sensitivity to insulin is also increased during exercise. Comorbid conditions like renal failure can cause a reduction in the insulin clearance. So for a longer period of time, the drug remains in the systemic circulation and predisposes the patient to hypoglycemia. Alcohol intake can also predisposed to hypoglycemia. So mainly insulin is a concern because we as physicians also are very worried and fear the hypoglycemia side effects and we want to initiate the patient with insulin. It is life-saving, no doubt, but it does not come without a risk. So it's very important for us to counsel our patients, and that is where the importance of diabetes educators come into play. We have just felicitated them. So it's very important for us to counsel each and every patient for hypoglycemia. In this busy slide, just let me tell you what it happens is that when your arterial blood glucose level drops after a certain level, the counter-regulatory mechanisms come into action and there is reduction in the secretion of insulin and increase in the secretion of glucagon. This is the first line defense mechanism which causes endogenous production of glucose through gluconeogenesis by the liver and the kidneys. If at this stage the person does not recover from hypoglycemia, the second and the third line defense mechanisms come into action and the neuroglycopenic, the brain is involved, so it increases the release of epinephrine, norepinephrine, acetylcholine and cortisol, which in turn all together they come and they trigger the glucose production, thereby increasing the arterial glucose. So consequences of hypoglycemia, we know first and foremost is the fear. Then there can be accidents if the patient is at work or driving or any time, so he can land up with accidents. The cognitive function reduces, there can be seizures, quality of life is impaired, and definitely the risk for cardiovascular disease increases. The consequences of hypoglycemia last longer than often believed. So the endothelial dysfunction happens, there is reduction in vasodilatation, there is increase in inflammation through the inflammatory markers like CRP, VEGF, interleukin-6, and increase in epinephrine causes rhythm abnormalities and hemodynamic changes in the heart. There is blood coagulation abnormalities through the activation of platelet activation, neutrophil activation, and increase in factor VIII. So these changes last from 48 hours up to 7 days after an episode of hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia associated with ECG changes as shown. Due to the release of catecholamines, there is hypokalemia, which causes abnormalities in the atrioventricular conduction, ventricular repolarization. There is R-wave amplification, T-wave flattening, and ST segment depression. Also, prolongation of the QT interval is seen, and the risk for cardiac arrhythmias increases. Hypoglycemia prolongates QT interval in adults with type 1 as well as type 2 diabetes. Complications and sequel, there is an increased risk of cardiac arrhythmias. There is abnormally prolonged cardiac repolarization in QTC and QTD. So there is a risk of sudden cardiac death. In neuroglycopenia, there can be reduced attention span, inability to focus, personality changes, confusion, seizures, coma, and even brain death in severe cases. So management is very simple. First of all, we need to detect it. If the patient is conscious and able to eat, follow the rule of 15, that is give him 15 grams of fast-acting carbs, which could be glucose, water, candies. Avoid pastries, chocolates, ice creams. Okay, and wait for 15 minutes and recheck the sugar. So you can keep on repeating this 15 grams of carbs, short-acting carbs, till the sugar comes up above 100 milligram per DL. If the patient is not able to eat, then he should be immediately taken to the hospital setup and intravenous infusion should be given to him. In the interim, the relatives can make a paste of glucose powder and coat it around his tongue or keep it under his tongue so that there is systemic absorption till the time the patient is reaching the hospital. Once in the hospital, patient should be administered a bolus of D25 or D50, and then an IV infusion should be set up and given till the time the sugar comes above 100 milligram per DL. Once the sugar comes up, we should evaluate the cause of hypoglycemia and adjust the doses of the patient accordingly. So just to give you a case study, this is a 65-year-old female who had come to the casualty with her son, and he was giving the history of the mother having recurrent vomiting and loose motions since the last few days. He reported that although she was perfectly fine, only she was feeling a little bit of fatigue and lethargy since the afternoon. He gave the history that the patient has consumed outside food, after which these episodes started, and her appetite has reduced a bit, and she is still taking the normal dose of her insulin and medication as advised. So she is actually a type 2 diabetic with RA and had undergone a CABG already. On general examination, it was apparently everything was normal except a slight tachycardia, and a little bit of pallor was seen. Systemic examination was normal. CNS, there were no changes. There were no neurological deficits. On a review of medicines, we saw that she was in very high doses, almost full doses of glimepiride, 4 milligrams twice a day, metformin 1000 milligrams twice, vildagliptin and voglibose, and also Lantus 30 units. Her labs showed a random blood glucose level of 51 milligram per DL, and this is falling under the serious level 3 category, at which she ideally should have had symptoms, but she was not so symptomatic. And her hemoglobin was 9.5 and HbA1c was 6.1, which also shows that she might be having recurrent episodes of hypoglycemia in the past, because of which she has hypoglycemia unawareness in this episode, even when her sugars were drastically low. So we diagnosed her as hypoglycemia unawareness with acute gastroenteritis with iron deficiency anemia. And we gave her intravenous glucose, dextrose, 25% till her sugars came up. Once her sugars were up, she was discharged on very small doses. Sulfonylureas were not initiated. She was asked to follow up, and on follow-up, we had adjusted her doses. So in summary, I must say that hypoglycemia is often a very neglected complication of diabetes therapy, impacting the patient clinically, economically, and socially. So many times, almost 60% of the patients do not give the history of hypoglycemia by themselves. Even doctors do not ask the patient whether they are experiencing any symptoms after starting the medication. So this must be looked after. Mild hypoglycemia reduces the quality of life, while severe hypoglycemia is life-threatening and can have major CV events. So effective patient education is very necessary to reduce the risk and consequences of hypoglycemia. Patient-physician collaboration is vital to develop and modify a treatment plan that caters to the patient needs, empowering the patients with tools to monitor hypoglycemia, making them aware of the risk of hypoglycemia and the available preventive strategies, what they can do immediately after they have an episode of hypoglycemia. That should be worked out, and together with an individualized plan of treatment, we can reduce the frequency and severity of hypoglycemia. So let us all come together and take this initiative to create more and more awareness on hypoglycemia ahead of World Hypoglycemia Day, which is celebrated on the 20th of November, which is the birthday of Dr. James Collip, who first observed and described hypoglycemia. Thank you.